Matt Bergman, and we're talking about building better AI prompts. We're going to focus right here on the task. What exactly do you want the AI model to do or create? It's not necessarily what you say, but how you say it that can have a big influence. So let's talk about that, and let's give you four different techniques. One of the techniques that we're talking about is called zero shot prompting. So, zero shot prompting is something that you and I have probably been using for quite some time, where we don't have to give it any prior context, just give it a question and allow AI to generate something. Now, it's a very simple way of doing things, and let's show you how it might work. So, if I go into Chat GPT and I just put in, if you have five oranges, you give away two, how many are left? This is great for just factual information, even opinions, getting feedback, etc. And as you can see right here, it's going to generate that. Now, if we changed it up a bit and we changed the technique to what is called chain of thought prompting, what we do is we want to influence how the AI model thinks or processes the information. So there might be a specific way we want it to think. There might be a specific format that we want it to use, a reasoning process. And so, in order to get it to think through what is called chain of thoughts, or sometimes known as few shot, we have to provide an example. So, if you see this right here, we're going to give it a question. Here's a sample question. Here is a what how we want it to go through the process and rationalize its answer. And then right here, we're going to give it another question. So let's actually check this out and see what an AI model does. So I'm going to go into ChatGPT and let's watch it work. So now it's basically going to reason now. It's going to say, look, we started out with five oranges. One orange was given away, leaving four. There we go. So it's actually modeling our response after the way that we gave it an example. So this is really a great way of improving reasoning. It provides greater accuracy. It's really good with analyzing data. And so, chain of thought prompting, or known as few shot prompting, can be a great technique to use. But what about if we don't necessarily know how we want it to structure, or we want the AI model to, well, show us its rationalization? Well, in 2022, researchers found that just adding a simple phrase to the end, let's think step by step, actually can improve the accuracy of AI's ability to reason. So if you don't necessarily have an example, you're not necessarily sure about how it should be reasoned, if you want this to be very quick with its implementation, this is a great technique to use. So let's actually show you what it looks like in ChatGPT. So if you have five oranges, you give away two. How many are left? Let's think about it step by step. Now, this is great when you want to look at processes and see where there's potential gaps. This could be a really helpful way of getting feedback and comparing it to what you have already. And as you can see right here, it's breaking things down probably a little bit more complex than we would. But sometimes, well, there is so much information and so much complexity that you need to break it down into steps or chunks. I think of a pizza. You can't eat a pizza all in one bite. Typically, the average person can't. And so, chunking is a very similar concept. It's about managing the input, it's about managing the complexity and breaking things down. Now, in this example right here, you're going to see that I did put step one inventory, and I said this, you don't have to put the word step one, but it is very helpful in this particular example to help us. So let's actually go through and let's practice this chunking. So we're going to say, hey, look, you start off with 120 oranges. Notice that we have more oranges and we have a more complex problem because we're donating now. So now what it's going to do is it's going to rationalize because once again, with this particular prompt, it's still thinking that we want it to think that way. Let's change it up a little bit and let's start a new um, a new example right here, and it's going to break it down a little bit differently. So you can see the previous responses, the previous prompts have an influence on what is actually happening. Now, what I can do next is I can go right in here and I'm going to go step two. Notice that the difference is a little bit different than what I had before. And that's one of the beauties of AI is you're constantly getting new results. All right, let's check this out. So we're going to go into pricing. So now what it's going to do is it's going to use a revenue model, and it's going to go through and it's going to talk about how much did we earn in revenue from the total oranges sold. Okay, so very good. So then what we want to do is we want to talk about logistics. And so I can go right here and I can actually put this together. I'm going to hit talk about logistics, how much it costs. Very good. Now, once again, this is the free version of ChatGPT, so I'm actually hitting the limit of the current free plan. That is fine. But I'm going to say, hey, put together a balance sheet of the following of the transactions. Let's see what happens. So look, as you can see right here, it's going to actually break this down from an accounting standpoint. So assets, liabilities, equity. Now, what I can also say is, no, please put together a table with the information instead. Now let's see what happens. So, and then I can say, get rid of the accounting lingo. I'm going to say, keep it simple. So here we go. So this is actually going to break it down even simpler. So if there's a specific format that you wanted to follow, if you wanted it to diagram all the different transactions, let's see what it looks like. So diagram all of the transactions in order. Let's see what it does. So it's actually going to diagram them a little bit differently. And so it can even create a visual transaction. The idea is that when you are working with AI and you're trying to get the task or exactly what you want the AI model to do, it's really important to consider what exactly the end result is. If you want something like chunking where there's very complex versions, this might be a great technique for you. Zero shot chain of thought prompting is really great when you don't have an example, but you do want to go and make the AI think in a logical process. Or you might even want to think with your own process, your own techniques. Maybe you have certain industry standards, certain industry techniques that you use. This might be a great way of cluing that model in through chain of thought prompting. And then if you just want to ask it a basic question, which we've been doing since the beginning of time, the beginning of 2023 when ChatGPT was announced, that would actually be zero shot prompting. So hopefully this helps, and welcome.